In Hawaii, the Tacoma is like a canvas. It showcases the ways that you are as a person, the things that you do every day, whether you're a carpenter or a fisherman or a surfer, whether you're a classic, fresh off the lot, dragged out of a mud pit, there's a Tacoma to match. 10 years ago, I was living in Portland, Oregon, when I got the chance to photograph a band who was going on tour in Maui. I jumped at the opportunity to see Hawaii for the first time, and the thought of an escape from the cold rain from the few weeks sounded ideal. We flew over, and within a few hours, my new home was a tent on a citrus farm. Next morning, I woke up in paradise with a 5-piece bluegrass band noodling and playing the soundtrack to our adventures. We cruised around the island, and I began to notice more and more. The warmth mixed with moisture, the way things were green and flowering everywhere. The place felt alive. Then I began to notice the details beyond the obvious. How the ocean moved, how each beach town has its own little flavor. I noticed how everyone speaks to each other like they're family. And then I noticed the Tacomas. Clean ones with fresh rims and all the bells and whistles. Hunting rigs with fresh kills on the back. Slam Tacomas with thumping bass setups and underglow. All different shapes and sizes. A decade later, from that first night on the citrus farm, now of course, I have one of my own. This is my Tacoma. Just like me, it's an ongoing project. This is a 2005, which is the first year of the second generation. A basic daily driver with a 2-wheel drive automatic transmission, 2.7 liter, naturally aspirated, 4-cylinder engine. It's basic, it's straightforward, no frills, pickup truck, and it gets the job done. I can throw surfboards in the back, I can go to the beach, it sips on gas so it doesn't break the bank at the tank. More than anything though, just like me as a person, I saved it from the depths of despair. I found this Tacoma with a blown up engine, rings that were allowing oil to be burned in the combustion chamber so that anytime it ran, it would just blow smoke out of the tailpipe like crazy. It had a broken passenger window, a flat tire, wrecked paint, a trashed interior. It was neglected. So of course, I bought it and got it a used motor, which I swapped in my driveway, fixed all the odds and ends that it needed to get going, and now she's my daily. But there's still more to be done. She's not running right. The front end sits lower than it should. The rear glass is not glass or see-through at all. The tires are dry, cracking, and probably gonna blow up soon. The wheels leave a lot to be desired. The air conditioning is not conditioning air at all, and the paint could use some work. The interior always needs a detail, but maybe we'll get to that at the last. So, without ado, let's get to work. Okay, so let's jump right into the easiest thing that I know is making the biggest disruption, which is that the engine isn't quite running right. You can hear in that last clip that it was kind of idle surging, and I've changed a bunch of different parts already, and honestly what's left is this mass airflow sensor. It's a sensor that basically detects how much air is going into the engine, and if it's giving odd readings, then the engine will adjust and adapt in odd ways. And so they're fairly inexpensive, they're easy to install, so let's throw that in. And that worked. It seems to be running a lot better now thanks to the mass airflow sensor. I'm also getting a code for the downstream oxygen sensor, which is saying that the catalytic converter is bad, but the reality is that that just means that downstream from the catalytic converter, it's getting a reading that it shouldn't. So I messed with the downstream oxygen sensor connection, found it to be a little loose, got that clipped in. We'll see how that runs. Now I'm gonna dive into fixing this front suspension. It rides a little lower than it should, and it looks like somebody put in a rear suspension kit and then just didn't get to the front. These shocks and mounts were in the truck when I bought it, so it looks like somebody just kind of quit halfway through. I'm gonna go ahead and pull everything apart and start to get it installed. Honestly, what happened here was I hit kind of a wall with pulling apart the front end and realized that I would have to start cutting parts, and there was a lot of rust that was holding me up that was going to cause issues. So I decided instead to switch to working on the air conditioning because I already have the compressor for that. We're just going to switch gears for a second. Sometimes you need to step away from a project before you start breaking stuff. So instead I jumped into something I've never done before, which is working on an air conditioning system. So the current air compressor that is in this truck whines like crazy when you turn on the AC. It makes a lot of bad noise, and then the AC light starts flashing, so the compressor itself needs to go. Luckily, when I installed the used motor into this truck in my driveway, it had an AC compressor that came with it. So we're just gonna go ahead and swap the used one in. It's not too crazy, just a few bolts and a few clips. And there is no gas in the system as it stands. So I can just unplug everything, plug in the new compressor, and go from there with pulling vacuum using the specialty tool from O'Reilly's. After I pulled vacuum, I then added some Freon into the system, and the AC is blowing cold. We'll see how it holds up over the long run. Sometimes it can leak back out if there's leaks in the system, but it's blowing cold for now. Okay, so now I'm gonna circle back around to this dreaded suspension. So I'm gonna jump back into pulling this front end apart. It honestly has been fighting me the whole way. There's rusted bolts that are breaking. I ended up breaking the drop link to the sway bar connection, so I have to order some new drop links. I ended up having to cut off and drill a bolt from where a brake line connects to the shock itself. I also ended up breaking the front ABS sensor because the clip didn't want to unclip, so I figured I'll just pull the sensor out, and in pulling the sensor out, it broke into two, and I ended up having to drill it out of the hole. Yeah, so those are on order as well. It's a bit of a can of worms in this front end suspension because it's a little rusty, but we're gonna make do. We're gonna get it all fixed up. You know, sometimes you just gotta have persistence. I ended up beating the hell out of the whole thing with a hammer and cutting it with my grinder, and then eventually, after a long, hard fight, I was able to get the shock spring strut mount thing out. So now that I've got that out, I can use another specialty tool to compress the spring and relieve tension on the top bolt of this strut. If I don't do that, the whole thing will explode like a bomb and probably send me to the hospital. I've never done this before. It's very scary, very dangerous, and I don't want it to go bad. So that's what we're doing today. Let's see how this goes. Okay, well, I'm kind of down to my last option here. The reality is I've tried everything, gripping the bar. This little tip on the end of it is just breaking off. I think I'm just gonna have to cut it here. I know that that is probably the sketchiest thing that I could do. I do have the proper tool on the spring compressing it so there's not really any tension on the strut. Like you can see, I can move it around. Let's cut. Let's hope that this tool stays in the right place and that nothing bad happens. Phew. All right, well, that worked. Thank God. As you can see, the spring is still compressed, and I was able to mount the new base plate for the new shock absorber. Then when I went to put on the nuts, I realized I had damaged some threads here on the top plate. So I just ran that nut down and back a bunch of times with some lubricant. And you can see there's this plate, this spacer on top that's gonna add a lot of lift. But before I can install that, let's get the other side apart. Gosh, looking in here, it's bad. I mean, you can see, look how terrible this outer tie rod is. Just totally rust jacked. You know, everything is pretty far gone in this front end suspension. Now getting into this, honestly, I'm gonna keep taking this apart and put some more suspension parts on order. I'm gonna order some inner outer tie rods and some other stuff to add back in when I'm done with this lift and shock situation. Knocking the rest apart here, you know, had some success, but you can still see, I mean, look at what I'm fighting against. This is just totally rust jacked everything, but you know, slowly but surely just working my way through, getting each nut off finding ways to be able to pull it off here with extension bars and any way that I can to help out. On this side as well, the same little attachment for the brake line gave me a bunch of trouble, and I ended up having to drill out the area that it was connecting to the shock mount. And it's little stuff like this that really just adds time. A little bit of destruction to get that thing out. So this is what I mean by can of worms. You know, it's hiccups like this, it's little unforeseen work that ends up making jobs like this 10 times harder. But you know, if you just keep pushing, you get to these types of moments where you finally get stuff out. Round 2, I win. I'm gonna have to do the same thing of cutting this top nut off. There's no way of getting it out. I tried everything. It was gonna break anyway, and so I just decided to save time and go ahead and cut it like I did the other one. Luckily, crisis averted, nothing dangerous here, just a little bit scary. So finally got that apart, and now we can start to reassemble. Well, unfortunately, this isn't gonna work. This upper control arm radius is too small. It's hitting against the shock there. I guess the change in the geometry, and also this base plate looks a little bit bigger too. It's just, yeah, I mean, I finagled to be able to get the control arm down to here because I figured maybe that would be the way to connect it, but I need new upper control arms. Great. So I busted out my measuring tape to see how big of a control arm I would need, especially here on this side where the spring was out. I jumped into cutting off the rusty bolts that were fully rust jacked to the bushings on the center so that I could at least get these ones out. It fought and fought the whole way through, and I cut bolts, cut the nuts, and eventually got the control arms out. Then, taking a closer look at some of the footage from earlier in the video, I thought, you know what, maybe there's a way to save this. So I decided to try to get the bolts out of the control arms themselves, but man, they did not want to come out. I left a heat gun on them for a very long time and kept having to try and tap my way through getting these bolts out of these bushings. They fought and fought and fought, but eventually, with persistence, I succeeded and got some fresh grade 8 hardware, Loctited them up, and decided that maybe by putting the pieces together in a different order, it might work. And so far, so good. Now I'm gonna jump to installing the adapters that I bought so that I can adjust from a 5 lug to a 6 lug, because all the other Tacomas that have available wheels on Facebook Marketplace are all 6 lug. Everybody has the 6 lug wheels. So in order to get a good deal on anything, I'm adapting from 5 to 6. I'm also adding a big 2-inch spacer so that I get that wide stanced look that is so desirable because it just, I don't know, it looks cool. If you're up and out and you've got stance like that, it just looks good to me. I think that's, I don't know, maybe it's an island thing, I don't know, but it's awesome and I want it, so that's what we're doing. And I know that everybody is gonna say, you're gonna ruin your tires, you're gonna ruin your suspension. I don't care. But anyway, I started putting them on, and then look at this lug nut. It's poking out of the top just enough that you can't put the next piece of this spacer together. So I think I'm gonna have to cut the top off. I don't think there's any threads in there, so it should be okay. It looks aesthetic. So I'm gonna just jump in and start hacking these original lug nuts that I have off. Now, just cutting the tops off, you can see right in there, there's no threads I'm hitting. I'm cutting off, you know, vanity sections, so it's fine. I screwed in this little vise to my table and knocked them out. Now I can actually mount these adapters onto my hubs. Got them all in, got it all torqued down, put a little Loctite on these little machine bolts that they came with just to make sure nothing goes anywhere when I'm driving on the road. You know, safety third or whatever. Did it on both sides, got it all together, and got very excited because this means that I now get to show you guys the wheels that I scored. This is all part of the thing why I'm going to 6-lug. There's so many more wheel options, and I scored these 2025 Tacoma wheels with brand new tires on them for a measly $500. They look sick. It's gonna really upgrade the truck. So I went to put the lug nuts on, and unfortunately, no, they go right through. So went to town, and on my way to town, of course, I see some Tacomas and like, look at this one. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Like on the right, standard setup. On the left, that's the kicked out, lifted situation that we're going for here. Looks sick. It would cost like $100 to get a lug nut set. So I stopped, I gave them all back, and I ordered them on Amazon. They're gonna be here in a couple weeks, probably, hopefully sooner. In the meantime, I went home, I removed the adapters, and I put my original wheels on that I've been running just to be able to drive my truck around and be able to surf while I'm waiting for parts to arrive from Bezos. Okay, so I got that all installed with some silicone holding it against the rubber and some tape to kind of pinch it down while it dries. God, that is so much clearer. It doesn't have the same tint as the standard glass, but I'm fine with that. I think that's, honestly, it was really just because I was looking out, literally couldn't see through. So now that I can, calling it fixed. It's no longer a sliding window, but it's a window. All right, guys, well, a bunch of parts have come in the mail, so I get to replace some of the rusty, jacked up front end suspension that I noticed when I was doing that lift. Now that the lift is in, it looks great, by the way, like the front end leveling out, pretty cherry. And when I was putting it in, I accidentally destroyed the rusty drop links that connect to the sway bar in the front. So a couple of those are here. I made some amateur mistakes. First, I got 2025 Tacoma wheels, which have a different lug setup. The previous generation that I was planning on using and got adapters for has a 12 millimeter 1.5 pitch. The new stuff has a 14 millimeter 1.5 pitch. So the lug nuts, the studs, everything I got was for a previous generation of wheels, but I have the newest generation of wheels. So I'm gonna keep the wheels because I think they look sick and the rubber is brand new and I got a good deal on them. And I instead upgraded the adapters. So I sent back the second gen adapters that you saw me tinkering with just now, and the new latest stuff is on its way in with the correct adapter, the correct studs, and the correct lugs to go with the wheels that I have. It's just something I didn't see coming. Maybe if I had done more research, but the reality is that only changed like a year or two ago. I just didn't see it coming, but minor, just swapping out some of the parts to be able to support the newer system. And then that way this truck can run on 2024, 2025 wheels as they come off of the stock trucks. Because what happens commonly is people will get the stock wheels with the truck that they lease or buy from Toyota, and then they'll immediately pull them off and put on super cool high-end stuff. And then they have this like stock set sitting around in their garage, which they don't use or don't need, and they tend to sell them for very cheap. That's what happened in the case that I just got, and I foresee that happening for the inevitable future. So we're gonna set ourselves up to have the newest, latest, and greatest on the setup. And I think maybe I could get away with just swapping out different lug nuts to be able to take some of the older stuff, as long as the 14 mil can get through, because the pattern is the same. It's just the difference in the stud and in the lug style. So after getting these wheels, tires, and adapters strapped in, you can actually see that there isn't much offset. Even though the adapters have a 2-inch kick out, it's pretty much right where it was before. So I honestly think that these wheels had a negative offset or a positive offset, whichever it is, that made them sit closer in on the truck, and the 2-inch adapter really helped keep that all in line, to be honest, because without that it probably would have been pretty ugly all sucked in. So thank God I got a 2-inch adapter. I didn't quite get the look that I was going for with the wider stance like you saw in that other Tacoma example, but hey, at least we're squared up, and I won't lose any of my suspension parts due to increased wear. I feel like a real YouTuber now because somebody sent me stuff. Look, the guys at Auxbeam sent me lights. They were like, "You do car stuff, put our lights on something." And I was like, all right. So they sent me lights. Look at this, a 4-inch and a 7-inch pair of off-road lights for the Tacoma. I'm gonna fit in Hawaii so good now. Thank you guys so much. I feel so honored to have people sending me free stuff just to put them in videos. That's super cool. Makes me feel like a real YouTuber. They didn't pay me or anything, but they sent the lights for free. Super cool of them. A good way to do this would be the 4-inch should fill this gap. That there should be a fog light here, but this unit obviously didn't get that from the factory because basic. But let's start with the 4s and see if we could strap them into the front bumper, start to get wires into the cab somehow, maybe through the firewall. Let's crack these boxes open. Thanks again, Auxbeam. Let's pull them open, see what the quality's like, wire them up, and go from there. All right. Well, that went pretty quick and easy. Just a single bolt, washer, and a lock nut on each of these. They look good. They look like they're gonna throw some light. I thought for some reason that they had an amber color, but they just have an amber lens, which is fine. I'll just keep it in the glove box, throw it on if that's what I'm looking for in particular situations. It was pretty easy. The one thing I noticed was that in the hardware, like on the mounting base plate, they actually put a couple of notches for where their bolt can sit so that it doesn't spin. That made things a lot easier, so I didn't have to try to get another wrench onto that top bolt. It already had it in the design to keep it in place, so that was good. Okay, these things are beefy. Look at these 7 inches. Holy smokes, this is gonna throw some light. So same thing, it's got just this plastic cover to give you amber, but that thing's serious. Look at it compared to the 4. Okay, so this thing up here, okay, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Okay, so I don't think that'll work there. The other thought is maybe on the rear. That could be pretty tight. I don't know, I think these need to go on a rack on top. Honestly, I think that the truck looks best just with the 4s in the front bumper. I'll save the 7s and the switch that's coming in the mail for another project. Something maybe that's more 4x4. This truck's only 2-wheel drive. It doesn't make sense to have big trail lights on it. So, it came with a bunch of wiring for the lighting, which has a relay and inline fuse. So, pretty much ready to go. Let's just clip it all together, strap it to the battery, punch it through the firewall, and find out a place to mount it on the dash. Let's go. All spruced up. Thanks for watching to the end. We got so much done on the Tacoma. My daily now feels like she can actually go places without the tires exploding and breaking down and stuff like that, and that's what's most important. And so thank you so much for Auxbeam sending some lights over. That's super cool. Thanks to you guys for subscribing, following along. Appreciate it. Makes it all work for me. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. See you on the next one.